let's go ahead and do a Q&A, like I said. And there's a lot of you. I'm not going to be able to get to all your questions. I'm not even going to try. Ooh, evil. Yeah. Don't worry, I'll repeat the questions. I'm really good at this. Oh, wait, this is a big room. Yeah, you better run it back. You better, I'll step to this side. I'll repeat the questions also, but let's go ahead and I'll let Adam just start picking people and giving them, yeah.
Could a listener be a squire?
Could a listener be a squire? Yes, that is a Raffo. Joel, hold up your Raffo button. You think, oh, there's my son. He's the Raffo master. Come on up, Joel. You get a hold up Raffo when we say it. So if you don't know what Raffo means, it means read and find out. It was one of Robert Jordan's favorite phrases. And Joel is my Raffo assistant tonight. All right. All right, I'm going to check the time, make sure okay. We're going to go to like 9:30 with the Q&A, and then we'll get to the reading. Okay, go ahead.
How would a Mist Wraith bond with a spread? Would he use a gem heart, O's, or songs like the listeners?
All right. Next question.
Where do gemstones come from?
Gemstones on Roshar are mostly coming from gem hearts. And I remembered to stick at some mentions of this in Oathbringer because a lot of people have been asking about this. It's just not something like the daily ranching of animals for their gem hearts is not something that we bring up a lot. But there is some limited mining operations on Roshar as well. You just got to get through the creme. Yeah, all right.
If someone is attacked by a hemalurgist, could they be healed with regrowth?
Oh boy. So if they were attacked by a hemalurgist, then yes. If hemalurgy were done to them, then it's a much more difficult thing, and that's going to depend on a lot of factors. So, yeah. All right.
Where did you get the idea of a chasm fiend?
Idea for chasm fiend. This is actually a pretty good one because so what was happening with the Stormlight books is originally the Shattered Plains were not in Stormlight. If you didn't know about this, I'm gonna scratch an itch. If you didn't know about this, Stormlight started without the Shattered Plains. And when I came back to the series to write it after kind of failing at that 2002 version and wanting to try again, I hired a concept artist to do sketches of characters and settings for me. His name was Ben McSweeney. He's actually here. Yeah. I think, is Ben sitting at his table still? He's probably sitting at his table. But he's back in the back? Oh. Maybe I don't know. Ben is here, but Ben is the person I eventually hired to do a lot of the artwork because he had done all this great concept art. And one of the things he did is he drew a giant brain coral because I'd said, give me corals on things that you would normally find underwater in a coral reef but above ground. This is where we're going to start our brainstorming. And he did this giant one that people were walking through the cracks, and there was a little crustacean monster in there. And I'm like, oh, that looks like the Shattered Plains. Hey, the Shattered Plains, why didn't I think of that? They work really well because they'd originally been in Dragonsteel and they hadn't really worked there. And so I brought the Shattered Plains over, and the original inspiration for a chasm fiend was that little beastie. It looked more like a crayfish that he had stuck in one of these little grooves. We should find that art and post it online so you guys can see it. But that's where chasm fiends came from.
Do you plan to write any more books in the Steelheart universe?
Okay, so more books in the Steelheart universe. Do you want to stand up here? Do you want to sit down? You're cool either way. Yeah, you're good? Okay. So Steelheart. So there's a big story here. So the book I started that I started writing right after I finished Oathbringer in June was called The Apocalypse Guard. And this is in the same universe as the Reckoners. And I wrote the whole book, and there were some things wrong with it, as happens sometimes with books. And so I thought, I'll send it to my editor and see what my editor at Random House thinks. She read it, she got back, she's like, I like some things about it, but it's got these problems. I'm like, well, those are the same problems I thought it had. That's not a good sign. So I got on, I brainstormed and said, what do you think we should do? She's like, well, maybe this or this. And so I spent like 2 weeks working on a really in-depth revision document. And I revised about like 20% of the book following this document, and it was worse. It didn't fix the problem. And so I'm like, I need more time on this book. This book is not working. I'm sure I can fix it eventually. Like I told you, I stopped writing the Stormlight Archive in 2002. And so I pulled that book and set it aside. And I sent it to Dan Wells, actually, because he's one of the best writers I know. I'm like, Dan, something's broken. Can you tell me what's broken? And so I'm waiting to see what Dan has to say on that. But for now, that's where Secret Project came from. So I'm like, well, I don't feel good releasing Apocalypse Guard next year. I have to fix it first. It's just not good enough. And so I pulled out an outline for something else, which I'll read to you later. And I said, well, I'm going to write this right now because I feel like I can write this and it's going to work. So I started writing that. So the answer is yes, there will be more books. And there will even be, if I get around to it, a book about Mizzy as a protagonist. If I can find, I have to get the Apocalypse Guard working first. All right. Thank you.
A lot of people will probably ask you how to write better. Do you have any advice for people who want to read better?
Oh, woo, what an interesting question. So I don't know if you can read the wrong way, right? Right upside down if it works for you, man. One of my speeches previous year, the little things I get up where I go professor on you. One of those things was where I talked about there is no wrong way to read my books, and you have the power as a reader, I feel, to have line item veto. If I describe a certain person a certain way and you're like, nope, you are allowed to change that in your version of the book. I have a good friend, he's still in my writing group, actually he's Leighton from Bridge 4, right? Leighton from Bridge 4, because all my friends ended up in Bridge 4, except for Dan, who I killed horribly in the Mistborn books. It was great. He survived the first time. I let him survive, and then he died. But all of my friends ended up in Bridge 4. So Leighton, he was reading The Wheel of Time back when he was a teenager, and they got to the part where Tom Maryland has a mustache. If you've read these books, he's this guy that has this really awesome mustache. And Alan said, nope, no mustache. He doesn't match when he told me this, I was horrified. I'm like, that is a central feature of what Tom Maryland looks like. He has a big drooping mustache. And Alan's like, nope, not in my version. And I'm okay with that when you do that in my book. You can pronounce the names the way you want. You can, I give you a script and then you direct it. And you get to change whatever you want in your head. So I don't know if there's a right or a wrong way to read, if that makes sense. I did take a speed reading class for 3 days, or just 1 day, where they started teaching me how to speed read, and I realized when I was speed reading, I was missing kind of the music of the writing for me. One of the tactics to speed read is to stop hearing it in your head, the sounds while you're reading, which is great for getting through something fast. But I was like, no, this doesn't work. It makes the books less musical, if that makes any sense. And so I immediately dropped out of that class. But that was for me, right? I need to savor the story a little bit more. If you want to speed read it and that works for you, go. So it's an interesting question that I just basically refused to answer. I'm sorry. All right, let's do this. And then Adam, why don't you come up and kind of work your way over this way? Mm-hmm.
Working? There we go. Started reading Wheel of Time in 1991, so thanks for completing that part of my life. My question is, by and large, I love your characters. I I really dislike Eshonai. Really dislike her. Is there a character that you really dislike writing, or if you don't dislike them, is it hard to find their voice?
Cad Swain. Sorry, Wheel of Time fans, but Cad Swain, you're not my real mom. Moiraine is my real mom. I tried to do my best with Cad Swain that I could, though I would say of my own characters, they're all like my children, and I love my children all equally. So I got the same thing with my characters. Like when I'm writing someone, they're my favorite. So yeah. I wouldn't say so, but on the Wheel of Time, definitely. Cad Swain, she can go eat a brick. Yeah.
With reading, have you ever read a book that has made you cry? Or
Yeah.
has made you so frustrated that you wanted to throw them
Oh, books that made me want to cry, and books that made me want to throw the book. Wow. It's not that hard to make me emotional in a book. I'm normally a very even-keeled guy, but a really great story told really well can really get to me. It's part of why I wanted to be a writer. I've got like I said, a very even temperament. I wake up most days just kind of feeling the same that I did the day before. So if there's like, bipolar or things like this, I'm like the opposite. I'm like, if you vary between like, people vary between like a 0 and a 100, I'm like at a 75 all the time. Which can be really cool, except when everyone else is like super excited and they all go to like 90 and 100. I'm like, yay, that's cool. I'm happy too. But a good story, that gets me, right? That can really get me. And so, I mean, a lot of my favorite stories. Anne McCaffrey was really good at doing this for me. Anne McCaffrey. But Terry Pratchett, right? They're comedies. They make me cry, right? And so, yeah, like if I mention something that I like something, it's probably stirred powerful emotions in me. What have I wanted to throw across the room? Okay, I'm sorry. I know that some of you really like this, and I'm sure they are really good books if you're in the right mindset. But this is going to date me a little. There was a sequel series to the Willow movie that was written, and Chris Claremont is a great writer, right? This is like I think this is the X-Men Chris Claremont, right? And things like this. I don't blame Chris. Lucas was involved. Ooh, bird! He didn't deserve that. Strike that from the record. But I loved Willow, right? When I was a kid, I'm like, a fantasy movie that doesn't suck. Yes! Right? Nothing against you, Beastmaster, but, a fantasy movie that doesn't suck, and Warwick Davis was awesome, and I love that movie. And then the books came out, and like in the first one, they're like, yeah, all those people you love, they're dead. That's how the prologue goes, right? And the character whose life they saved is in the movie and things like that. Spoilers, it's been like 30 years. Is like a spoiled brat, and everyone's personality changed. That's probably the book that I most throw against the wallish. I'm like, no, don't kill all my favorite characters. Here's a clue for you. If people love a whole bunch of stuff, don't start the sequel with, yeah, all that stuff you loved. We're just gonna, we're not gonna, don't Aliens 3 your movie, okay? Don't just get, or Alien 3, don't do that to your books. Okay, it's okay to have loss, but don't have all the people you love die in between stories. Bad idea. All right, yeah.
At the end of Words of Radiance, Hoyt is sitting there talking to some Kremlins, and I was wondering, is he talking to one of the Desian Amians?
All right, so have the Heralds lost connection and identity, and if so, can regrowth heal it?
The question was if have the Heralds lost connection and identity, and if so, can regrowth heal it? All right.
Awesome.
Soulcast blood, does it have RH factor, blood type, or does it match anyone's DNA?
So the answers are to that yes.
So Hoyd was not afraid of a shark blade. Would he be afraid of Nightblood?
Every rational person who has ever existed in the Cosmere is afraid of Nightblood, or should be. Hoyd isn't always rational, but yes, he is afraid of Nightblood.
Are you worried, because of the length of the Stormlight Archive books, that the movies will not be able to encompass them fully?
What a well-stated way to put that. So let's talk movies for a second, so that I can save you some time when you're coming through the line, in case you're curious. And then I'll hit the two big ones. I'll hit movies and I'll hit sequels to my books. So movies. Hollywood. Bless them, they try. No, seriously, like there are a lot of really creative people who really are passionate about books in Hollywood. Just none of them have any money. I'm exaggerating, strike that from the record. But no, we have sold the rights to people that we trust. Otherwise, we wouldn't sell them. It's always a gamble. We are never sure if it's going to work. Like even people who are really well-intentioned. The Golden Compass movie is a great example of this. Really good intentions. Everything about that movie should have worked. Great actors, great design, and the movie was boring. And it's like everybody tried really hard and it just didn't work. And sometimes I know how that feels. I tried really hard on Apocalypse Guard and it didn't work. And so yes, I am totally worried about that. But the thing about it is, if I don't risk that, then I can't ever have a good movie because I will never have a movie. Now, would we rather Stormlight be a television show? Probably. And I think the chances, yeah, you guys agree with that. So what I've been saying is let's just hope that the other fantasy television shows do well. Let's hope that the new Lord of the Rings one does really well. Let's hope that Pat Rothfuss's television show goes really, really well. Like if a bunch of these things get made and they're good, it improves our chances and things like that. I've constantly said I would rather a television show, but you know, I wouldn't have thought that the Lord of the Rings films could be adapted as well as they were, and they worked. So who knows? I'm willing to roll those dice and see what we end up with. All right, Adam, let's do two more.
I was just wondering, why do you decide to do more series like the Apocalypse Guard or your secret project while you still have so many more unfinished sequels?
Yeah, it's a good question. No, it is totally legit. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, there's multiple people holding up rhythm. So I did finish Legion. I did that. So those who are looking for that one will come out next year. And so why do I do it this way? Well, most of the time it's because I try a book and it doesn't work. Arithmetist fans will probably know I tried to write Arithmetist too. I built an outline, I started writing it, and the book didn't work. The route line was wrong on that one. I got like 3 chapters in. I'm like, nope, this book is broken. And it was mostly due to my lack of research into the proper things to do the book the right way. And because Arithmetist and Alcatraz, which we'll get Alcatraz 6 eventually, those are the two that are looming most. Those are side projects. Those are things that I do for fun. They have to slot in between my main projects, if that makes any sense. Like I have to do them when there's time from other projects. So for instance, I couldn't go to Random House and say, I'm going to do Arithmetist 2 sequel, because Arithmetist is not their series. It belongs to Tor. And so if I want to do more with Random House, I have to do something that works for them. And that's kind of the long and short of it. I mean, I will get around to things like Warbreaker and Elantra sequels, but but the thing about those is, those are sequels to the worlds, not necessarily sequels to the characters. You can't, I won't promise you that the same characters will appear in them. Some of them will. But it's the idea that those are standalone books that I plan to do more in the world, and the time isn't right in the Cosmere to do those. For something like Arithmetist, that's more pressing, because I'm like, that promises a sequel with the same characters. But I have to find out how to write it first. And for various reasons, a Arithmetist sequel is really tricky to pull off. And so yeah. So that's kind of the answer to it. Sometimes I also just need a break and to be able to do whatever my mind wants to do. So yeah, it's not a very satisfying answer, but it is the way my brain works. But you can know that if it's like one of the mainline things that I've got contracts for, that I won't be doing that to you on it. So Stormlight will be pretty regular. Mistborn will be pretty regular. But some of the side projects, it's just when it's right, it's right. All right, last question.
So, in Secret History, Fuzz mentions a weapon that he buried. Is that the ATM, or is that something else?
Go ahead, Joel. Yeah, Adam says one more since that one got rafoed. He controls the mic, so.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey. So, okay, in correlation to art, okay, Leonardo da Vinci has the Mona Lisa. Michelangelo has the Sistine Chapel. Do you feel that you created your Mona Lisa, or is that something you're still working on?
Oh boy. Number one, I do not belong mentioned in the same breath. Let's establish that. I actually got to see the Sistine Chapel last year, and wow. You think you know it because you've seen the pictures. It's not the same. Have I? That's not for me to decide. That is actually for readers and history to decide. Most entertainment is ephemeral. Most of what we release will go out there. It'll make people's lives better, I hope. It'll be fun. We will all like it. But then it vanishes, and a new generation of artists create new things for that generation. And that's fine, right? I'm not chasing Voldemort's immortality in that way, but maybe I'll create a Dune, right, or an Ender's Game, or something that is larger than the author by orders of magnitude and becomes an enduring part of the pop cultural landscape. Maybe, but that's not the sort of thing I think you can set out to do. It's like a combination of all kinds of factors come into these things hitting at the right time and working in the way that certain films and books do, like Harry Potter did. Ask me that in 100 years, and we'll see. It's a good question to think about, but it's not a good question for me necessarily to answer for myself. If that makes sense. All right, guys.